For many diseases, this is called the last mile. That's one of the most adventurous.
Welcome to the third season of Transmission, the podcast of the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp. This season, we follow our researchers in their ambitious pursuit to eliminate and control diseases that threaten the world. In this third episode, we explore the last mile in disease elimination, a journey filled with logistical challenges, fading motivation, and unexpected lessons. From the forests of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to villages in Burkina Faso, we uncover what it really takes to eliminate a disease. And surprisingly, our journey starts with a chicken. Transmission, your front row seat to the world of health, science, and beyond. Imagine you carry a live chicken in your backpack, not because you just bought one at the market, but because you're a researcher heading deep into the Congolese forest. The chicken was given to you by Dr. Charles Gambo, one of your trustworthy partners from the National Sleeping Sickness Program of the DRC.
In the field, we have Dr. Charles, which is the coordinator in the Equator North region.
We listen to Elena Nicco, ITM expert on sleeping sickness, as she's trekking to a new village.
And he can really arrange everything.
The chicken Elena is carrying isn't a quirky tradition, it's a necessity. Without refrigeration or reliable food sources, preserving butchered meat during the long journey to the village isn't an option. So, instead, a live chicken dangles from her backpack.
The mobile teams, they really eat what is available in place often. But so when we arrive, we are a bit treated as a VIP guest. And then if you want to have a more complete meal, you need to bring your food with you. So you bring your chicken, you bring your vegetables, you bring the oil that you need to cook.
These are the kinds of details you don't immediately think about when considering the grand goal of eliminating sleeping sickness.
Yeah, but it's really, yeah.
Beyond food, teams must transport an array of essentials, including solar panels, microscopes, and diagnostic tools. Every item carried is critical, but impractical to take along. The long journeys often involve planes, days of driving, motorbike rides, and hours of trekking through dense forests.
You have to travel a lot. Sometimes you really can't access to reach the villages. So you need to really walk in the forest.
The way the researchers travel is an analogy for their work on disease elimination. Sometimes progress is swift, like an airplane, but the final stretch is often slow and done on foot. The last mile is always the hardest.
And then once you are there, you will have no hotel, no facilities, so you do some kind of camping, and you need to get organized. You will have no electricity in general. You will have no running water. But so the people of the National Sleeping Sickness Control Program, the field people that are working in the Congo, they do that 20 days per month, every month of the year. So these people for me are really heroes because they are incredible. They have this very difficult work. They have difficult life conditions, and they still go on to do that.
Once in the village, the team convinces the community to participate and conducts the screening over 1 to 2 days, only to find no cases of sleeping sickness, as the disease is getting more and more rare. Yet they pack up and move to the next village, unfazed. But when months of testing reveal no new cases, even the field teams can become exhausted, not saving lives, not treating people, day in, day out. While this is a sign of progress, a sign that sleeping sickness is dwindling, it can demoralize health workers. The closer we get to 0 cases, the harder it becomes to keep morale high. Reaching 0 cases for a disease is a daunting task. Sleeping sickness only has a couple of 100 cases per year in the entire world. It's almost trivial. It feels like a number that the world could ignore if it wanted to.
For many diseases, this is called the last mile. That's one of the most adventurous.
Efforts often lose momentum just when they are needed most. And reaching 0 cases is as much a logistical and financial challenge as it is a mental one. When case numbers drop, funders often think the problem is solved, and activities are scaled back. Why allocate resources to such a rare disease as sleeping sickness when there are more pressing matters like malaria, HIV, or the climate crisis?
It's a long-term effort. It's a long journey to achieve it. If it's achievable, that's one thing.
This is Jakke van Den Abbeele, a parasitologist and an expert on sleeping sickness at ITM.
So you need continuous effort of different stakeholders, especially also the local partners and the national programs, strong involvement of them. So there, why the international organizations and also ITM and all the research institutes from the global north are important to keep it ongoing and also to put financial effort in it and also manpower. And it's also our role to keep it going, definitely.
Otherwise, the disease will resurface, undoing all the progress that was made.
You still need to aim for elimination. Maybe you will not achieve it fully, but that continuous effort for screening, either active or passive, treat people and combined with tsetse fly control, you need to keep it ongoing for many, many years.
One of the more pressing challenges in eliminating sleeping sickness is maintaining expertise. The diagnostic skills of health workers are honed through practice, yet with fewer cases emerging, doctors and nurses are seeing the disease less frequently. Imagine you're a doctor in the DRC.
At best, you will see one, maybe case of sleeping sickness per year. Now, so in 5 years or in 10 years, it will be even less.
This creates a paradox. As the disease fades, so too does the ability to detect it. Keeping sleeping sickness on the radar in remote areas becomes increasingly difficult. On top of that, community participation also starts dwindling when you get closer to 0 cases.
People are very busy. They don't see sick people around them. They don't see them anymore. So for communities, the disease might not be very relevant. They might not perceive it really as an issue. They might have other priorities.
This makes it much harder to motivate people to, for example, leave their fields to get tested, especially when there's an overwhelming chance that the results will be negative. People have to grow food, cook, take care of their children, do things that are essential for survival. And the emotional reward of saving lives diminishes when no cases are found.
And this is a process that is repeated regularly because we have to go back to these villages every year. Every year you see these same people coming and asking you, please, would you like to be tested? And you do it once, maybe you do it twice, but then you are negative and you have other things to do.
Yet these efforts are crucial to ensure the disease doesn't make a comeback.
So that's a big challenge.
Despite these obstacles, people are still participating in screening activities. The fact that the mobile teams can still gather so many people for testing is impressive. Imagine for a moment that a scientist arrives in your town, announcing that everyone needs to be tested for COVID-19, a disease that doesn't claim as many lives as before and has faded from your daily reality. The researcher wants you to go to a testing facility to stick a long swab up your nose. How many people would voluntarily stop their work, leave their homes, and show up to be tested? Likely not many. Yet in the Congo, villagers still come together to battle sleeping sickness. Conflicts and political instability in the most affected regions of the DRC further complicate elimination efforts.
So there is tribal conflict and all activities are interrupted in some health zone in this place. So of course the disease is transmitted, the disease is ongoing and the disease is growing there.
The World Health Organization aims for the elimination of sleeping sickness by 2030. But is that even possible?
That I can't tell you now. We will be working with the Congo, the different partners, 10 years.
Fortunately, the treatment for sleeping sickness is remarkably effective. 3 pills and then you're treated. The parasite will be removed from your body. So why not give everyone 3 pills and be done with it? It's always a balance between benefits and risks.
It's very difficult to justify that you will you can't treat all the 300 million of people living in Congo to treat probably 300 people.
Instead, the focus must remain on targeted interventions, continued screening, and robust funding. For Jakke, the goal of elimination seems overly optimistic.
From our side, from ITM, they always say elimination is achievable. But I'm a non-believer. We can control it, but I don't think we can ever go for elimination. Maybe I'm too pessimistic, I don't know.
Even if elimination proves unattainable, it remains a valuable goal.
We are so close to the zero, and how to get there with the tools that we have, with the challenges, with the reality of the field, the fact that the disease is really specific for these remote, poor populations in some countries in Africa. So that's really incredibly fascinating.
The fight against sleeping sickness offers valuable lessons for global health. It's an interesting case study in what it takes to reach 0 cases of a disease. Learning from sleeping sickness might help to eliminate other diseases, like malaria, for instance. Malaria is an ancient enemy. Despite decades of advances in medicine and public health, this mosquito-borne disease continues to take a heavy toll on the most vulnerable of all, children.
So there is still 500,000 children that die every year from malaria. 90% it's children under the age of 5.
Children are the main target of the disease because they haven't built up any immunity yet. For Ana Rosanas, these numbers are why she gets up every morning. Her journey began in Catalonia, but soon took her to the Amazon, Papua New Guinea, and beyond. Today, Ana is a parasitologist, and she leads the malariology unit at ITM. For years, the fight against malaria showed promise.
We were doing quite well at the beginning of the 21st century. There was an important decrease because we had new tools.
There were new treatments, new diagnostic tests, and a huge distribution of bed nets. Because of those interventions, malaria cases and deaths dropped significantly between 2000 and 2015. But the decrease has stopped.
And in some places it's even increasing.
In 2022, there were almost 250 million cases of malaria, with over 600,000 deaths, most of them children.
There's always new challenges that come along the way.
Parasites are becoming resistant to drugs, mosquitoes are adapting to insecticides, and funding isn't keeping up with growing populations.
If we want to control and eliminate malaria, we need sustained funding, we have new tools, we need new investments.
The stakes are enormous, but there are a lot of hopeful stories out there too. One of them started a couple of decades ago, with a young man entering his final high school exam.
So my name is Halidou Tinto. I'm based here in Burkina Faso.
Halidou's dream was to become a pharmacist and earn a good living.
But during the final exam to enter at the university at high school, the exam was 4 days exams. And the second day, on the afternoon, when I went to the examination room, I have got high fever, headache, vomiting, dizziness, and I was very bad. So I had to stop the exam, so I failed.
Halidou was taken to the hospital. The diagnosis was malaria.
So from that time, this really changed my mind on my objective of being a pharmacist. I decided from that time to do not make money anymore because there are many things more important than money. My objective became to work on this disease. That pushed me to fail my exam. Do ensure that the next generation of young people do not experience the same difficulty I had of not being able to complete my exam because of this disease.
Determined to make a difference, Halidou pursued a PhD in malaria research at ITM. Afterwards, with the help of a grant from ITM and the Belgian Development Corporation, he returned to Burkina Faso to establish a clinical research centre.
When I look at the landscape in Africa, there were very few centers with the expertise and the capacity to conduct clinical trials on drugs, vaccines, and diagnostics, where these tools are supposed to be used.
He started with a single room in a rural hospital and minimal resources.
When I came back, I started from scratch. I had nothing, no electricity, no building, nothing.
But his perseverance paid off.
I was able to convince the funders that I have the capacity to set up something. Because what I told them when they came for the site selection, I told them that maybe I don't have buildings, I don't have cars, I don't have equipment, nothing, but I have my potential. And I'm sure you will not leave Burkina without giving me the opportunity to express this ambition, to express this, to reach this goal. And I think my speech, my presentation was really convincing for them, and they decided to support me.
Starting from that single room in that small hospital, Halidou gradually built a world-class research facility capable of conducting high-standard trials on vaccines, drugs, and diagnostics. The institute is named the Clinical Research Unit of Nanoro. It employs 400 people and ended up playing a pivotal role in testing RTSS, the world's first licensed vaccine against malaria. The malaria vaccine, though only 50% effective, was a groundbreaking achievement when it began pilot testing in 2019.
And when we end up with 50% of efficacy with RTSS, the first lesson I learned from that is that it is possible to make a vaccine against a parasite.
Halidou's next thought was, could we do this again, but with better results? Building on the success of the first vaccine, 2 years later, a second-generation vaccine, R21, did better in the tests, much better.
So it came as a surprise to me to see 77% efficacy. Because the first time we analyzed and presented the data, I was shocked. I said, no, this is not possible.
It was astonishing to see a vaccine against a parasite that worked so well.
It was really a surprise, but good surprise. And of course, that day I was not able to sleep.
Manufactured in Oxford and tested in Burkina Faso, the new vaccine is now used in endemic countries and has shown remarkable results, thanks in large part to the dedication of local researchers.
All the clinical trials was conducted by my team in Burkina, on the ground here, in a small village, and where we generated data that could have a big impact on the world. That was really a big achievement, a very, very big achievement in my career of researcher.
For his contributions to malaria research, Halidou was named among Nature magazine's list of top 10 people who helped shape science in 2023. The recognition of African researchers like him highlights the growing influence of African-led research on the global stage. But even Halidou sometimes has to temper his enthusiasm about eliminating malaria.
Yeah, I would say in short and medium term, it will be really too ambitious to pretend to eliminate malaria. Because with the current tools we have on hands, we are not in the position to eliminate malaria in the coming even 10 years. But with the future of malaria vaccine, we hope that we'll end up with a vaccine that could interrupt the transmission of the disease.
Halidou is already looking at a vaccine that he hopes could prove 90 to 95% efficacy. It will take a long time to get there, but
if we are able to produce such a vaccine, we can be in the perspective of eliminating malaria in the coming years.
But having a vaccine alone won't be enough. Anna Rosanas elaborates.
There is no bullet magic, and we were all very happy also to have a malaria vaccine after so many years of doing research on that.
But it won't fix everything. New approaches are crucial in the fight against this notoriously complex disease, as we are locked in an arms race with a rapidly evolving parasite.
We are using treatments, and at the beginning they are very effective in killing the parasites, but the parasite adapts, and slowly they become resistant to the drug that you are using.
New tools need to be ready before the old ones lose their effectiveness. It's a tough race, as we experience time and time again. By the end of the 20th century, for example, mosquitoes had developed resistance to chloroquine, a drug used to prevent and treat malaria.
There was a huge increase also in mortality and morbidity because we were treating people with drugs that were not working anymore.
And we see new resistance against drugs we use right now.
We need to be prepared to use another treatment soon, because in some countries it's really increasing. It's already in Rwanda, it's already in Uganda, and it's going to spread because we have seen this already in Asia.
Amongst others, Anna seeks to understand two things: how the malaria parasites develop drug resistance and which pathways they use to enter our cells. The beauty of the parasite itself, visible under a microscope, also inspires her.
I was going to say they look beautiful, but they have different stages. So what you see, it's the cell, the red blood cell, and then inside, depending on the stage, you see kind of a circle with a nucleus. And then when the parasite multiplies inside of the cell, you see kind of flowers.
Diagnostic tests must also be updated to account for changing parasites.
There are also a lot of research on having new rapid diagnostic tests, because the ones we are using now, the parasite has also been able to develop mutations that can escape the diagnostics.
When this happens, a person can be infected without the parasite showing up in tests. How is it possible that parasites escape our diagnostics? By only treating the detectable strains, we inadvertently drive the evolution of strains that evade detection. Damn you, evolution theory. Mosquitoes are ever-changing too, for instance altering their biting behavior. This makes control measures like insecticide-treated bed nets less effective.
Instead of biting at night, now they are biting in the morning or in the evening when people is sitting outside having conversations.
There is a need for continuous research and innovation, as there won't be one tool that fixes everything forever. This includes improving vaccine efficacy, targeting more age groups than young children, and looking for asymptomatic carriers who still harbour the parasite. We'd better keep working.
Even you do not have malaria in Europe, in the US, but we should all be concerned by the disease that is continuing to kill a child every 30 seconds in our continent.
Drug development, new vaccines, new insecticides. Malaria may sound like something you can study and solve in a lab, but tools alone aren't enough. Malaria is tied to deeper issues as well.
We need better roads that people can access health systems. We need better sanitation. We need better houses. And basically, we need to stop inequalities and that vulnerable populations have access to all those things.
If we don't do all that, no amount of science will eliminate the disease. It is a story of resilience and the tireless efforts of researchers and governments, but also the participation of local communities, as Halidou experienced himself when doing research for the malaria vaccine. In the communities where his team was working, a strange rumour started to spread that they were collecting blood from children.
For instance, in our trial, one of the challenges was that we were collecting the blood of the children to sell them to the white people. You see, this kind of rumors. And that made some of the participants reluctant to participate to the trial.
Next to this fear, the story began to emerge that people who donated blood became sick. Fingers were pointed at the field teams.
So these are real challenges we face in the field.
To overcome these obstacles, Halidou and his team invited community leaders to observe laboratory procedures.
We took them, they visit all the lab, including all the machines. We take them to have a look on the microscope to show them this is the parasite that make you sick, that make your children sick. And when we collect the blood, this is exactly what we do with the blood of your children. We are not selling them. We are not putting them in the machine to make them more sick, but it's just to find a way to make them free of malaria. So this was really very important because we find out that after that visit of our lab, when they went back, they were really good witnesses for the team.
Working together with the local community was equally important for Anna in Madang, in Papua New Guinea. She met with people who became her partners, colleagues and friends.
I think that's from there that I take my energy, and it reminds me when you go to endemic countries and work with our collaborators, our friends there, going to the communities, it's what reminds me every day why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Collaboration with local communities is both essential and rewarding.
In Madang, there's not many things. There is a market that you go, and then there is supermarkets that have the basic things, and we didn't have internet neither. It can be also very nice not having internet and not having all these inputs the whole time. You do other things. You sit and talk with people and share experiences. So sometimes you just talk about how different you live your life or you understand life, which can be different but can be also very similar. So it's clear that we are kind of all connected. It's a pity that we can live ignoring half of the world, and at the end it shouldn't be like that.
Papua New Guinea is a country of 8 million people and 800 languages. Roughly 80% of the population lives in rural areas, relying on farming for survival. When Anna did research in several of those villages more than a decade ago, the reality of malaria became evident.
So for me, what was like absolutely shocking is we arrived and we had to start screening the population. We wanted to enroll children in this study. From those children that were all from 1 to 5 years, when we started to see them, it's 70% of them had malaria infections, 30% of them had fever at the moment.
Many were already in advanced stages of the disease.
And there was small children with hemoglobin levels that they should go into a transfusion, and there is no way of doing this there.
In the end, this late stage of malaria can lead to organ failure and death, a common occurrence.
Together with that, they have a lot of parasitic worm infections that even aggravates more. They are malnourished.
It reminds us that behind the numbers, there are people, and in the case of malaria, children. Malaria is a preventable disease if diagnosed and treated quickly. The challenge lies in reaching vulnerable groups, often in remote areas, with life-saving tools.
Yeah, I think that the hardest part maybe it's when you go to the hospitals and sometimes it's, okay, there's not enough even respirators there. It is hard, but I think that it's very important to see it and keep it in mind that this is like this and that we have to do something until this is not like this.
The fact that so many children are still dying from it should give us pause for thought.
Sometimes just think like if COVID would have killed children under 5, imagine the despair that we would have had.
As mosquitoes spread, the risk of the disease grows. But history shows us that it's possible to fight back and win. Because not that long ago, malaria was rampant in Europe as well. In the 1950s, Europe waged a war against the mosquito, trying to beat back malaria, which was still prevalent in much of the continent. The weapon of choice? DDT.
So a lot of insecticides were painted indoors, sprayed outdoors. If you see some old pictures, you think, oh my God, people were sprayed with DDT.
This is entomologist Ruth Müller, who heads the insectary at ITM. As late as the 1970s, malaria still regularly occurred in parts of southern Europe. Entire communities were drenched in insecticides, often with little regard for the long-term consequences. Spraying DDT on entire communities is thankfully no longer an option. We now have a much better understanding of how harmful that was. The campaign to push malaria out of Europe was largely successful.
We still have the mosquito species who can transmit these malaria parasites, but the parasite itself is not circulating in Europe.
The deadly triangle of mosquito, environment and parasite has not been able to re-establish itself in Europe. But that may not last much longer. The mosquito and the environment are already in place. In fact, small clusters of malaria cases have started to reappear in southern Europe.
Our malaria-free status in Europe is not longer true, so in Greece we definitely have malaria outbreaks.
A reminder that progress is never permanent and victories over parasites and viruses can be fragile. As with other diseases, one of the greatest challenges in tackling malaria is sustaining funding and momentum as case numbers decrease. Anna agrees.
We're going to need a lot of political will and agreements to get there. Otherwise, any gain, it's lost after some years if you stop. So it has to be maintained until really malaria is elimination. Otherwise, we're just going to be in this fight moving forward and then backwards. And we need to do it everywhere where there is malaria, and we need to do it until malaria is eliminated. We cannot stop when less people has the disease.
The ultimate goal of malaria elimination remains ambitious but achievable.
And with the combination of all these initiatives, we hope that in 10 years' time, 15 years, nobody will talk about malaria. Or even if we should talk, we should mention malaria, it will be in the past. It will be part of our history.
History has shown that eliminating diseases is possible, but it demands vigilance, funding and collaboration. For sleeping sickness, malaria and dengue, we've made progress. But the hardest challenges lie in the final stretch. Will we push forward and walk the next mile, or will we let these diseases resurge? Groundbreaking innovations are emerging, offering a lot of reasons to be hopeful.
My main goal is to make people more happy, more healthier, and knowing that your work contributes to achieve this goal of really solving the health issues of your community is what I'm more proud than the publication did.
But those innovations are a story for our next episode. For more information on the Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp, please go to itg.be/podcast.